History isn't just what happened, it's what almost happened. What if events went another way? Join us on the journey as we explore what if the Louisiana Purchase never happened. In 1803, the United States made one of the most consequential decisions in modern history. For $15 million, it purchased the Louisiana Territory, doubling the size of the nation overnight. At stake was control of the Mississippi River, the economic lifeline of the young republic, and the vital port of New Orleans. When Spain transferred Louisiana to Napoleon Bonaparte, alarm spread. President Thomas Jefferson feared that a powerful France could strangle American trade or force the nation into war. He sent diplomats to buy New Orleans. Instead, they were offered everything. In our history, they took it, but in this world, they don't. In this world, Jefferson refuses the larger deal. The Constitution is unclear. The political risk feels too great. So the United States purchases only New Orleans and a narrow strip around it. Nothing more. The Mississippi is secured, the crisis ends, and the future narrows. At first, it looks like a success. Farmers celebrate. Trade resumes. New Orleans is American. The Mississippi is open. But just beyond the city, France remains. A continental empire presses against a constrained republic. New Orleans becomes an outpost, not a gateway. Trade continues, but only at France's discretion. Every shipment is watched. Every crossing is monitored. The river is no longer a national artery. It is a controlled corridor. By the 1810s, tension builds. Western states, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, expand rapidly, but their future is boxed in. They can farm, but not expand west. They can trade, but only through a city encircled by foreign power. Resentment grows. Frontier leaders begin asking dangerous questions. What is the purpose of a government that cannot secure our future? Why should Western states remain tied to Eastern priorities? Unity begins to weaken, not through war, but through doubt. France tightens its grip. Customs posts line the western bank of the Mississippi. Military patrols monitor crossings. French settlements expand strategically into the interior. The United States protests, but it cannot act. It is too small, too cautious, too divided. Smuggling becomes common. Clashes erupt along the river. Western militias form, not to attack France, but to protect themselves. The federal government loses influence. America remains one nation in name, but in practice, it is beginning to split. The War of 1812 still comes, but it unfolds differently. The United States fights Britain. France remains watching. New Orleans is defended fiercely, not as a gateway to expansion, but as a fragile outpost. When the war ends, borders remain unchanged. The United States gains respect, but no ground. No expansion, no momentum. France retains its hold over the interior, and the window for continental growth quietly closes. Without Western expansion, slavery compresses. It becomes denser, more efficient, and more violent. Plantations expand inward. Surveillance systems grow more sophisticated. Punishments become harsher, not just to enforce labor, but to maintain control. There is no frontier to dilute political power, no new states to shift the balance. The South becomes a closed system, economically dependent on slavery, politically unified around it, and increasingly militant in its defense. Abolitionist movements grow, but they lack leverage. There is no Missouri Compromise, no Kansas-Nebraska crisis, no singular breaking point. Instead, there are decades of unrest. Revolts become more frequent. They are crushed quickly and brutally. Over time, the system weakens, not through one decisive war, but through constant internal pressure and external isolation. Abolition comes unevenly, without victory, without transformation. The end of slavery does not bring equality. It brings adaptation. Without a civil war, and without meaningful reconstruction, the former slaveholding states retain power. They do not lose control, they evolve it. A system emerges more rigid than Jim Crow, closer to apartheid. Racial hierarchy becomes permanent and enforced by law at every level. Black populations are confined, geographically, economically, politically. Movement is restricted. Voting is functionally eliminated. Education is deliberately unequal. Economic systems ensure generational dependency. Identification systems develop. Labor permits, residency restrictions. Policing becomes enforcement, not protection. Violence becomes normalized, public, visible, intentional. And without a strong federal government or unified national will, nothing dismantles it. There is no civil rights movement as we know it. No sweeping legislation, no turning point. Resistance exists, but it is fragmented and suppressed. The system endures. Without American expansion, indigenous nations face multiple competing powers: France, Britain, the United States, all negotiating, all exploiting. Some nations survive longer, others disappear more slowly. But survival is never secure. The continent becomes a battleground of influence. The United States industrializes, but within limits. Without Western resources, growth slows. Cities crowd the East Coast. Factories multiply, so do slums. Without a frontier, tension builds inward. Labor unrest turns violent. Opportunity narrows. The American dream shrinks. In our world, modern life accelerated through scale. In this world, those forces fragment. Innovation still happens, but slower, uneven, disconnected. Railroads develop but stop at borders. Standards differ, systems don't align. Electric grids expand unevenly. Some regions modernize, others lag decades. Scientific progress becomes isolated. Breakthroughs occur, but don't spread quickly. Collaboration is harder. Funding is smaller, coordination is limited, aviation advances, but slower. Aircraft remain expensive, travel is limited. Then comes computing. In our world, early computing was driven by massive wartime investment. Here, that scale never exists. Computers are developed, but later. More slowly, they remain institutional for longer. Personal computing is delayed, the digital revolution arrives late. Then space. There is no space race. No U.S. versus Soviet rivalry. Satellites launch later. Human spaceflight is delayed. The moon remains untouched longer. Without urgency, progress slows. The modern world feels behind. In our world, American culture became global. Music, film, language, driven by scale. In this world, culture fragments. New Orleans becomes a crossroads, but not a center. Jazz forms, but spreads slowly, regionally. It never dominates. There is no Hollywood. Film develops in multiple regions. No global narrative. Black musical innovation continues, but is constrained. There is no unified American sound. Only regional cultures. When World War I begins, the United States is smaller, weaker, and less decisive. It cannot tip the balance. The war drags on longer. The Western Front grinds for years beyond our timeline. Casualties rise even higher. Germany is not decisively defeated. France is devastated. Britain is weakened. The war ends in exhaustion, not victory, and the peace is unstable. Without a strong United States, global recovery fails. The Great Depression hits harder, lasts longer. Extremism spreads faster. Fascism rises beyond Germany. Communism expands. Democracy weakens. The world destabilizes. World War II begins in a more fragile world. Germany expands rapidly. Britain struggles. The Soviet Union suffers enormous losses. Without American industrial power, the war lasts longer. Asia fractures more deeply. Victory comes, but not cleanly. No clear global leader emerges. The Cold War is not two powers. It is many. The Soviet Union, European coalitions, Asian powers, a divided North America. Conflict spreads, proxy wars multiply. And critically, technology slows. There is no space race, no rapid innovation surge. Computers develop slowly, satellites arrive late. The digital world is delayed. The Cold War becomes political, without technological acceleration. By the late 20th century, the world feels behind. The world is connected, but loosely. There is no superpower, only regions. The United States is influential but constrained. The world functions, but without cohesion. Buying only New Orleans solved the crisis of 1803. It secured trade, it avoided risk, but it changed everything. A smaller nation, a divided continent, a slower world, a darker history. History is shaped by bold decisions, but sometimes by the ones not taken. And in this world, restraint didn't just limit America. It reshaped the fate of the modern world. What are history's what-ifs you'd like to see explored? Leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe.